We've been walking through Timothy, and so we're going to do that again today. And if you'll remember, back a few weeks ago, we talked about keeping our eyes on end times and encouraging other people. Last week, Stephen talked about the ins and outs of being a good minister and how we should all, since we are all ministers, how we should go about that. And we're going to continue that today. Today we're going to talk about the discussions and the letter that Paul had with Timothy in particular. We're going to talk about how to treat one another in our faith family. And we're going to show a progression. And it's going to use words that may be a little offensive to you, but we're going to go through it because we have to own it, right? So be with me. And then we're going to walk through one word in particular that is different in the New Testament in this one instance than in anywhere else. And hopefully it will help you understand a few things. I hope what we talk through today gives some of you comfort in where you are. And I also hope that it convicts you as well, that maybe there's some things that you're living out incorrectly right now that we need to turn around, right? Repent from and move about our business. But just like Caitlin said earlier, it's Father's Day today, so I can't be remiss without saying thank you, dads. If you had a biological father or an uncle or a teacher or any male figure in your life that stepped in as a father figure, you're blessed. You're blessed. I get to say that because my dad's sitting right here. And there's a lot of you in here that have stepped into my life at different points to be that father figure as well. Super important in people's lives. In the words of Tupac, you are appreciated. That was talking about mamas, but you get the drift, right? You're appreciated. There's a lot of people that don't know who Tupac is, evidently. If you don't have a father figure in your life and you didn't, I pray God put somebody in your life as an adult that would help that. With that being said, if you have kids and you have kids around you, ensure that they have that father figure in their life. Like I said, whether it's a grandfather or an uncle or their dad, make sure that that person is in their life to give them that godly advice. So thank you. Thank you all today. With that said, today is Father's Day. Let your dads act like they're in charge today, okay? So when you go home today, let him do whatever he wants to, and y'all celebrate him. Cook him some food, let him watch TV, leave him alone. That's one of the things dads want, just be quiet, right? All right, we're going to do 1 Timothy 5, 1 through 6. We're going to spend 90% of our conversation today on verses 1 and 2. And we're going to zip through 3 through 6 pretty quickly because they're pretty self-explanatory. But the first two verses need a lot of explanation. So I'm going to read them out loud, and then we'll just jump into it. Do not rebuke an older man harshly, but encourage or exhort him as if he were your father. Treat younger men as brothers, older women as mothers, younger women as sisters with absolute purity. Give proper recognition to those widows who are really in need. But if a widow has children and grandchildren, these should learn first of all to put their religion into practice by caring for their own family and repaying their parents and grandparents, for this is pleasing to God. The widow who is really in need and left all alone puts her hope in God and continues night and day to pray and ask God for help. But the widow who lives for pleasure is dead, even while she lives. So this entire set of scripture that we're about to read can be wrapped up in 1 and 2, verses 1 and 2. So we're going to start there, verse 1 and 2. Do not rebuke an older man harshly, but encourage or exhort him as if he were your father. Treat younger men as brothers, older women as mothers, younger women as sisters with absolute purity. So that's where we're going to spend most of our time today. Like I said, last week, Stephen taught what it was to put good doctrine before brothers and sisters. And we need to remember there is a progression through Timothy. It starts with what are you supposed to do as a pastor? And that's what we're still going through. What are you supposed to do as a minister? It's not illogical for us to make the leap that if we're all supposed to minister to one another, that this applies to all of us as well. This is specifically how to operate an organized church. I hate that word, so bear with me. I'm sorry. I don't like the word organized. Sounds cultish. But there's a progression, and there's a progression for a reason. And so we're going to walk through it. So in your household, same thing. In your work life, same thing. In your church life, same thing. In your small group, same thing. Timothy was told to command and teach the scriptures. This was for the whole congregation. But what we're going to do today is we're going to talk specifically congregation, specific members of the congregation, and then later we'll see, as Stephen walks through this, we're going to see that there's specific people in the congregation that have to be treated a certain way. Today we're going to talk about general groups of people. So Paul's letter to Timothy today reveals a great deal concerning the nature and the ordering of church. And I want you to hear two things today. One, we should expect, hope, and pray for diversity in our church. And what I mean by that, I mean ethnicity, I mean age, I mean sex, the whole gamut of people. The expectation is that we have an entire church full of people that are different, right, in their stages of life and everything along the way. We should hope and pray for that because we don't want to be one bucket of 30-year-old men that come together, right? We want to make sure that we have a diversity in our gatherings so that we can participate as Christ has us participate. Let's see. So this diversity is interesting because we have one thing that binds us together, and that one thing being Christ, our unity in Christ. But all of us have different interests. So if we were all gathered here today because we like to ride bicycles, that would be not diverse, right? Because all our group would be held together with our common interest, and the common interest would be riding bikes, right? There's nothing wrong with having special interest groups, and there's nothing wrong with having small groups that meet from time to time that focus specifically on service or specifically on mental clarity or whatever the case may be. But we need to come together corporately and participate like we're participating this morning. Second, though the church is diverse and being made up of all kind of people, we are unified under Christ. So that's what we need to make sure, that we are together, we are unified, we are doing what God asks us to do. And Timothy was told to command and present the Scripture to the whole congregation. One of the things that's interesting to see today, one of the decisions we made as Discover Church, we have the littles in the room back there, right? But above, 4? Everybody else is out here in the congregation. That was an intentional move because one of the things missing is you take all your kids out of church up to 6th grade and everybody go this way. And they get taught the same from kindergarten all the way up through 6th grade in a lot of instances. They're past that. You know, even the little ones. You'd be surprised what a 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old will come up and say that they've heard while they were sitting in here in the general consensus, right, in the general congregation. So that was a good decision to be made. So in the passage we're walking through today, Paul considers the congregation as diverse in regard to gender and age in particular is what he's talking about. So look around you. Are we diverse in gender and age this morning? Absolutely. There's some really old people in here. I won't call you out. And there's some really young people in here, like myself, today. Yeah. So let's get into it. First of all, do not rebuke, but encourage. Okay, do not rebuke the old man, but encourage. And so that's what we're going to talk about. Not rebuking, but encouraging. And you're going to hear a few passages further down from here that we're going to talk about where Paul tells Timothy to rebuke. So what are we talking about whenever we say don't rebuke? You're going to think that maybe too by reading this that this only applies to Timothy, that it doesn't apply to anybody else. But as we went over last week and we've gone over multiple times, if you're ministering to someone else, if you're mentoring someone else and they are with you in spirit and you're walking with them, this totally applies to you too. Okay? So we're going to make that logical leap that this applies to all of us as well. Some of you are thinking, like I just said, other places in the Bible it says that Paul tells Timothy that he should rebuke, And that's absolute truth. He should rebuke. We should rebuke at different times as we walk along. So the apostles rebuked, Jesus rebuked. They even rebuked one another from time to time, the apostles, not to Jesus. Even if we were to stick to Paul's letter alone, we would see that this is the case. We're going to go to Titus 1:9. You don't have to turn there if you don't want to. I'll read it to you, but you can if you'd like. This is out of the ESV. Paul lists the qualifications of elders. So we're talking about organization in the church. He must hold firm, trustworthy, and he must hold firm to the trustworthy word and taught, so that he may be able to give instruction in sound doctrine and also to rebuke those who contradict it. So we're saying to rebuke, but in this scripture we're saying don't rebuke the old man. But in that verse we're saying to rebuke. Titus 1:3 says, Paul referring to the people who were living sinfully within the congregation. This testimony is true. Therefore rebuke them sharply, that they may be sound in the faith. Again, we're talking about people in the congregation being rebuked. But I thought we said don't rebuke. One more time, 1 Timothy 4:2, Paul says, preach the word, be ready in season and in out of season, reprove, rebuke, and exhort with complete patience and teaching. So again, if we're being told in all these different places, Paul telling Timothy to rebuke, why are we now saying do not rebuke? I want you to look at the interpretation of this verse. Let's go back to the original Greek in this text. The very first time this word is used in the New Testament, and this word, parakaleo is actually how this word, when it says do not rebuke the old man but encourage or exhort him, parakaleo is the original word, the original Greek word. That means to rebuke, but it's stronger than rebuke. It means to not to strike or snap at. Okay? In the other times, rebuke is talking about bringing things to light. And there's multiple times that it also says, and we'll talk about it in a minute, do it in front of everybody. If you're rebuking an elder, you're supposed to do it in front of everybody. This is saying that you have somebody that is doing something they're not supposed to. You're supposed to rebuke, but you're not supposed to snap or to strike at that person. So we are going to rebuke them, but we'll talk about that. So what does Paul mean when he says do not rebuke but encourage? He means that Timothy and all who are ministers must be not harsh, short-tempered, or snippy. We should call out the rebuke in love and not harsh words. Does anybody have a problem of using harsh words? I do not. Ask Heather. She'll tell you I don't use harsh words. That's a lie. I'm staying up here telling a lie. But do you have a problem if someone is doing something they shouldn't using harsh words? I think we can all say we do. If anybody's been raised by anybody in this area, somebody has used harsh words. Your teachers have used harsh words. Your coaches have used harsh words. Friends of the family, parents, you name it, they've used harsh words. So do not rebuke, but encourage. The word translated as encourage also will help us understand that. It means to request, to plead for, to appeal. So we're supposed to go to this person and rebuke it, but we're not supposed to do it snippy. We're supposed to do it in love, and we're supposed to talk to that person and request for them or appeal to them that, hey, you're living incorrectly. Here are the things that are going on that you're living incorrectly about, and come to them in love. I also want to talk about being reminded that there's ditches on both sides of the roads when it comes to rebuking, and we'll talk about that in a second. When you put it together, the meaning becomes clear. Timothy was not to be harsh with his members, okay, and we're not to be harsh with our members. He was to not be short-tempered. He was not to strike out verbally. Instead, he was supposed to come alongside his brothers and sisters, young and old, and patiently call them to faith and repentance through encouragement. Have you ever had a boss that called you in and chewed your butt out, and you walked out and didn't even know you got reprimanded until after you got out of the office and you did I just got in trouble. What the heck? Have you ever had that happen to you? I've had a boss that was very good at that. You could walk in and he'd tell you all the things you were doing good and the things that needed to be improved upon. You felt good about yourself. You go sit back down at your desk and go, I just got in trouble, right? That feeling of that's how you're supposed to present this. And this rebuke, what you're doing is you're supposed to go to this person in love and talk to them in love about things that are going wrong, with it not being ugly or snippy or called out, if you will. It's good to be reminded that there's a ditch on both sides of the road when we're caring for others, and this goes for this rebuking. So, in life, sometimes we ignore things. Whenever we see something, we don't say something. We allow it to happen because it's not my business, or it would be awkward, or I just want this person to like me, so I'm not going to say anything, because if I say anything, then I'm going to look like, I'm being ugly. That's the side of the ditch that's called negligence. It's because of laziness or fear or some other thing that's keeping us from talking to that person. And on the other side of the road, the same road, different ditch, if you will, is harshness. And people allow their hearts to grow hard, and they're impatient, and all they do is ramrod stuff at you constantly. Okay, so there's this double-sided ditch on the road. We have to make sure that we stay in the middle. We keep it between the ditches whenever we're talking to someone in the faith. And again, I'll reiterate, what we are talking about today is about people in the faith. Specifically, what Timothy's going through with Paul here is about who's in your congregation, like inside this room right now. Who is in your congregation? And so we got to keep it between the ditches. Now, you can't get your feelings hurt if somebody approaches you in love and tells you, I think you're screwing up. You need to straighten yourself out because of X, Y, and Z. And they did it in love. You can't run out the door screaming and hollering that, all these people are hypocrites, because we are. We're all hypocrites. But we're trying to do the best that we can in love. With that said, this starts at the top. So if you can't have a leader or leaders that are willing to step out of their box every once in a while and come off their high horse, if you will, and come down to the regular people and do this, or have it done to them. That's one of the things that, as Discover, that Mike, Stephen, and I are very good about making sure that we keep each other accountable. And that's one of the things that the deacons and deaconesses are very good at doing, is that if we think something is incorrect, we're going to say it. And that's super important, because it's a whole lot easier to take care of it right now than 2 years from now when it's allowed to fester. I told you we were going to spend most of our time on the first 2 verses, and we're only halfway through the first verse, so deal with me, please. I appreciate it. A negligent leader and a harsh leader will both damage the flock of God, both of them. So if you have a negligent person in a leadership role, and that leadership role can be anything in the church, if they're negligent or they are harsh, they will damage the flock. We have to stay in the middle. We have to be able to stay in the road. This also applies to husbands and wives, parents and children, members of God's church, members of small groups. This is interpersonal relationship. Whenever it comes, we talk about the cross being our relationship with Christ and the crossbar being our relationship with one another. This is our relationship with one another. So husbands, do you have a habit of rebuking your wife in a harsh way? Wives, do you have a habit of rebuking your husbands in a harsh way? Parents, do you have a habit of rebuking your children in a harsh way? Children, do you have a problem with being harsh back to your parents whenever it comes to this? So this is a two-way street. And we need to remember it applies to all our interpersonal relationships. If a person comes to you 3, 4, 5, 6 times and all they do is rail on you, you stop listening to them. Because their opinion doesn't matter anymore, because all they're going to do is come gripe at you. And I think that we all get comfortable doing that, and that's a bad thing if that's how you're going to react to somebody. What about for like cousins, siblings? The same thing applies, is that if you have a brother and you beat on that brother constantly, or you have a sister, a brother and a sister, and they beat on each other constantly. So, second, middle of verse 1 talks about old men are supposed to be encouraged. So we're supposed to encourage. So if we think about rebuking, we just talked about rebuking, and then encouragement. What does encouragement mean? That means you take your arm, you put it around that person, you sit down, you talk with them, and you encourage them as you would a father. So how many of you in here have ever been in charge, quote, of someone younger than you? It's awkward, right? It's awkward. Whether you're a teacher with a really old student at college, or you're a supervisor at work and you have employees that are way older than you are. Whatever the case may be, you're in a small group, you're leading a Bible study, and you have older people in the group with you. It can feel awkward. because you have the immediate response of, who am I to say anything to these folks who have way more life experience than I do? Flip-flop that. Have you ever been in the opposite direction? Have you ever had a younger supervisor? So we're talking about from the supervisor standpoint down. Now, looking from a role up. You had somebody that's in charge of you that is way younger than you are. I'll use Stephen as an example, right? Stephen has the responsibility to shepherd this flock. That is his responsibility. Yet, he is way less life experience than a lot of people in this building. He is way more spiritually immature than a lot of people in this building. He is a growing man. And we have watched, all of us can say we watched Stephen grow very quickly in 3 years. But he's a younger man, responsible for folks that are older than he is. So that's exactly what Paul was telling Timothy about in the scripture, was that you're a young pastor, you're leading this church. Here's the stuff you better do to make sure that you run this church properly, that you're doing what you're supposed to with this congregation. So the special kind of honor that those who are young ought to give those who are old is what we're talking about here. Talking about showing older men as father encouragement. In general, men know this. Most will be repulsed by the thought of a young person taking advantage or assaulting someone who is old. But we do seem to be, as a society, losing the respect for our elder generations. You can see more and more, and I don't know if it's because social media is more prevalent now or the news focuses in on things all the time, but there is an absolute abhorrent activity that occurs in this United States of America, in the world in general, but in our society in particular, where young people will totally disregard and even in some cases assault those that are weaker than them, meaning the elderly and children, but specifically in this instance, the elderly. With that, I want to say again, we should, as a church, be countercultural. We should make sure that we do what we are required to do. We should make sure that we honor those that are older than we are. We should show a special kind of love and care and respect for those who are advanced in years than we do. The young should be eager to show a special kind of honor to the old, and the old should not despise their age, but fulfill God's calling upon their lives in their later years. So sometimes, in our culture, it's improper to ask someone how old they are, right? But it's pretty easy to tell if a person is older or younger than you are, right? Own it. And when I mean own it, I mean own your age. Whether you're young or whether you're old, own it. If you're young, own that you're young and understand that the people that are older than you are more wise than you most of the time, and that you should pay them honor and respect. So that's what we're supposed to do in this verse. It says honor men as they are fathers. Into verse 1, younger men as brothers. Notice that it doesn't say younger men as sons. It says honor the older as your father, the younger as your brother. It does not say the younger as your sons. Because there's a lot of times where, and this you can see this in progression. I have 2 teenagers right now. You can see it in progression. When an 8th grader becomes a 9th grader, middle schoolers are trash, right? When a person becomes a senior, a freshman is trash, right? We look at them as less than we are. And we do that whether we like to admit it or not. You live in a neighborhood, and you're in your 30s now, you're in your 40s now, and a 22-year-old couple moves in. You do we're going to have to go show them the ropes. Make sure they understand how to live. Maybe you do that at work too. Maybe you do it in small group. You do they're so inexperienced. We need to take them in and show them the ropes, teach them like a kid. Biblically, that is not what we are called to do. We are called to put them beside us as brothers. Respect the older, put the younger beside us as brothers. And we're going to see that again when we talk about ladies. So how many of you in here have brothers? Raise your hand. Right? Do you treat them as kids? Just be honest. You don't treat them as brothers. You treat them as kids. If you're older than they are, you treat them like the punk that they are, right? But we are supposed to treat them as brothers, and that's exactly how we're supposed to treat those that are alongside us in our faith family inside the church. I put a note in here to remember that this only goes sideways and up. It does not go down. In any discussions that we're going to have about older men, older women, younger women, it always goes sideways or up. It never goes down. So no one is beneath us. No one is ever beneath us. We are supposed to look up to those who are elderly, and we're supposed to look across to those who are the same age or younger than we are, putting us on the same playing field. So the point of that in particular is don't talk down to people that are younger than you are. So if you are 45 years older than the person you're speaking with, you don't talk down to them. You talk to them as if they are your equal. They're your brother. They come alongside you. They may be younger in years, but they may be more spiritually mature than you are. And we need to remember that. There are a lot of people that grow spiritually really fast, and there are some that stay in a box. They're whole Christianhood, if you will. And they're in their 80s and still drinking milk. They're not eating meat. They're still drinking milk. So remember that. So if we let's go to verse 2. I'll reread it all. Do not rebuke older men harshly, but exhort him as if he were your father. Treat younger men as brothers, older women as mothers, and then younger women as sisters. So older women as mothers. There are a lot of folks in here that I consider motherly, and I think you all can feel that. There was a group of ladies that met for a small group this past session that did exactly that. A bunch of younger ladies met with some ladies that are older than they are. They're not a whole lot older. Yeah, they were. But my point being is that they met together exactly doing what this says. They were treating the older women as if they were mothers. They went to them for advice. They had some things they wanted to know. And that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to take care of one another in that instance. There's not a whole lot more to say about that other than there's something special about an older female that's older than you that can put the hurting on you, right? They can give you the what for. There's some maturity that comes with a female that does not come with a male, and you see this all the time. Y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. We're Toys R Us kids. The men are. We don't want to grow up. They say the only difference between a man and a boy is the size and the price of his toys. I'll just say look around at what you might have in your life, and that might be the case. So with that said, make sure that we treat the ladies that are older than we are as a mother. Take care of them as a mother. And when they talk back to you as a mother, take that advice and move forward with it. But when the topic of gender comes up in the Scriptures, and I say that word, and some of you go, ugh. Look around the world right now and see how crazy things have gotten whenever it comes to that word. There are people that are men of faith that may be in this room right now that may be looked upon by their coworkers, their friends, their whatever, as chauvinistic because of the way that they believe biblically. They may think that since you believe the way that you believe as a man, and I can speak to this plainly because I've been there in this instance, you can be looked at as treating your wife as a second-class citizen. And that is obviously not the case. Anybody that's married and is living in a faith-based marriage knows that, as a matter of fact, you kind of put your wife on a pedestal, not the other way around. But it can be looked at that way. I say this. I say we live scripturally as we know we should and as plainly laid out. And we let the world live as the world and try to inject what we can and see what happens in the end. See what happens in the end. The rest of verse 2. Lastly, for the verse 2. Timothy was called to encourage the young women as sisters. I won't read the rest of that just yet. So, he was encouraged to treat the younger women as sisters. So how many of you in here have a sister? How many of you like to beat on your sister, right? So this goes right back into what we talked about with brothers, the younger men as brothers, making sure that we treat those equal to us, even though they're younger or older. Yeah, I know. I see y'all. Anyway, that's for another time. But the same thing applies here as it applied to young men, treating women, younger women, as equals, as sisters, not as lowly creatures. The rest of that verse says, in all purity. Whenever you're dealing with a younger woman, deal with that woman in all purity. This was specifically speaking to Thomas, but it goes for everybody, men and women. He was to keep his guard up, right? So he's a young single pastor. He comes into a church, and Paul is telling him how he should be treating younger women. He has to keep his guard up. He has to keep his heart pure and his way pure. I don't need to tell you about the dangers of not doing that. Just watch TV, watch Facebook. See how many people have absolutely demolished their walk just in the past year of making themselves, putting themselves in bad situations that have made them leave the faith or leave the spotlight, if you will. But in this phrase, in all purity, applies to all of us, not just ministers, not just preachers, not just everybody, right? All men and women are to walk in purity. It doesn't matter if you're young or old, if you're married or single, if you're a pastor or a member, all shall walk in purity. Because we need to remember that. Just because you're single doesn't mean you can act like a hooligan. Okay, so I told you we were going to spend 90% of our time walking through those first two verses. And I hope you got a little bit of clarity as far as what it means to rebuke and to encourage. Not to be ugly, right? Rebuke, but encourage. Walk alongside that person. There may be those instances in your life where all you have to do is come alongside that person. They know that they're living incorrectly. And all you have to do is walk alongside them for them to understand that, I need to switch up what I'm doing. So, rebuke and encourage. The last 3 through 6, the last verses 3 through 6, we're going to read real quickly. I've read commentaries on this last little piece, 3 through 6, that make your head spin, and how people treat widows. It'll mess you up, but we're going to walk through this. So, verse 3, give proper recognition to those widows who are really in need. Underline really in need. But if a widow has children or grandchildren, these should learn first of all to put their religion into practice by caring for their own family, and so repaying their parents and grandparents, for this is pleasing. The widow who is really in need and left all alone puts her hope in God and continues night and day to pray and ask God for help. But the widow who lives in pleasure is dead even while she lives. So first, in verse 3, honor widows. In biblical societies where land inheritance was basically all the wealth that a man had, it went to his kids, went to his son, his oldest son in particular, which left mom with nothing, right? So this in particular means that if the son was left everything, he had to take care of his mom. He had to make sure she was taken care of. And that's something in our society we don't do anymore. Now, I'm not saying it's dead. I know there's a lot of people in here that you've taken care of your elderly family members. You've taken care of people that have been truly widowed. You make sure that they're taken care of. But my point is, it doesn't happen culturally like it should. Whenever a child moves out of the house and they're mad at mom and dad and something happens, mom gets left in a hole. Everybody else is gone. Kids are gone, bad relationships, things happen, and mom gets left holding the bag, right? Same thing with dad sometimes, but this is in particular talking about widows. Let's go to verse 4. If a widow has children or grandchildren, this can't be any more clear. If your mother is widowed, or if your grandmother is widowed, it is your responsibility, biblically, to take care of them. If something happens, they end up with nothing, you are responsible for making sure that mama or grandma or mother-in-law gets taken care of. That is your responsibility as a family. First and foremost, it doesn't say it's the church's responsibility. It says it is your responsibility, first and foremost, to do so. Now, hear me out when I say we're always going to step in where there's true needs. Always. But I want you to understand you can't come running every time mama needs something when you have the ability to get it and you're living in a lavish lifestyle and we need to make sure mama's taken care of. You take care of it. That's what you're supposed to do. And I hope And I can honestly say that everybody in here that we've dealt with in that instance is doing so. We need to continue to do so. A real widow. So let's go to verse 5. The widow who is really in need and left all alone puts her hope in God and continues night and day to pray and ask God for help. So what is a real widow? So I went to go find out what a real widow was, because in our culture, a person who is her husband passes is a widow. And according to Paul, that's not a real widow. So you go like this a little bit when I say that. A real widow is there's nobody left. She's by herself. There's no kids, there's no family, there's nobody. And she's really in need. For real, for real. She is completely in need. That is the widow that the church 100% attends to. That her congregation is 100% going to make sure that she's taken care of. Now, it doesn't mean that they have to. It could mean that the next door neighbors do it, right? That being her neighbor. But that is what this was set up for in particular, is that the church itself would provide for her. And there's a weird part of this that says, the widow who is really in need and left all alone puts her hope in God and continues night and day to pray and ask God for help. So when the church starts helping, if she quits, she is not seeking God to help her anymore. So she needs to continue to pray and understand. And we can see there are people that on paper it does not work. But God tends to them. He makes sure that they are taken care of. And that's what this instance is. She can't make it by herself. She can't do it. She needs the church to step in. She needs God to step in, and He will use her local congregation to do so, to make sure that she's taken care of. Last and not least, this one's kind of a tough one. It says, but the widow who lives for pleasure is dead even while she lives. This is talking about a widow who's been taken care of. She has the means to live a life of, not just survival, if you will. But she takes what she has and she squanders it. She lives a lavish lifestyle and she runs out. According to Paul, she's dead while she's alive. She never used God to guide her. She did what she wanted and she ended up destitute. And then she comes calling and asking for help. And Paul says, sorry. And then in the commentaries for this one in particular, I read a church's response to a widow who did this. Her husband was a millionaire. She got left with everything. She squandered it all, got caught up in a lawsuit, lost everything, and came running to the church. This was their response. No. You have lived in pleasure and must now suffer the consequences. The resources of this congregation are not for you and not for your help in this case. I did that. Oh my gosh. Now, we would never do that. Understand that if somebody was in a spot where they needed help. But that was an actual reply to a person in need. I thought that was kind of harsh. So reading 1 through 6, we can see from Stephen's talk last week to this week, we go in, here's how the church is supposed to be set up from long ago. Here's what we're supposed to keep our eye on as a people. Last week when Stephen was preaching, he came into here's what you're supposed to do for your congregation. Get up there and lead these people. Now we're going into each individual categories, old men, old women, young women. We're about to walk into the pieces and parts of what you're supposed to do for each. We'll talk about elders in particular, about how we're supposed to rebuke them publicly. If something happens, you bring them right up here and you go, here's what you're doing, here's what you should be doing. We ask that you cut it out, right? Ooh, that's tough stuff. But for today in particular, we need to remember that we need to rebuke and encourage. Not rebuke and encourage, excuse me. So that not rebuking piece that we talked about is coming alongside of them, putting your arm around them. So I do love the diversity that we do have in this church. We have young and old, men and women, all the way through. The church is family. And some of the church is really family. Like we've got family members sitting right here. Half of Stephen's family, I think, comes on every Sunday, which is awesome. You were born into your family. You couldn't pick. And in a similar fashion, you were born into this congregation. You ended up here through a series of circumstances, but you're here, and this is your family now. And I think I can say with a straight face, looking everybody in the eye. If somebody was in need in this church, they would be taken care of. And I think people can stand up and say, we were in need, we were taken care of. That's how we're supposed to live. That is how we're supposed to live. But we are also supposed to come alongside each other and encourage each other. When you're down, encourage. But whenever you're living outside of the will, encourage as well. Put your arm around them. So let's love each other in Christ despite our differences, giving honor where honor is due. And as we walk together in this world, let us not snip at one another, but encourage one another faithfully. Negligence will not be tolerated, and neither will harsh, domineering disposition. And so that's one of the things that you can expect from your leadership at Discover is we will not let neglect happen, and we will not let harsh resentment happen either. That's not going to happen. Because Christ will judge that man or that woman that treats his bride that way. So we need to make sure that we're treating Christ's bride, the church, as we should biblically.